Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very special guest with me. This is Catherine Bell, my teacher. Thank you so much for accepting my request for making a video about the part-time job.
You're very welcome. and I think it's wonderful that you're doing this because so many people are wondering about what do I need to put in my resume. And when I look at my students each year, about 130, 150 students, I see a lot of resumes.
Even when I come to first time in Canada, I didn't know how to make a resume. So at that time, I was thinking how to make a resume that's very acceptable in Canada. So before we start, my first question is actually, can you just explain something about yourself to my audience?
Okay. Well, I've been teaching for about 36 years. I was first a fashion designer, and I ended up moving from fashion design into teaching because of a problem with having had polio as a child. So I came to Kingston, to St. Lawrence College, where you study, and I started teaching fashion design. They canceled the program, so I opened up my business, Prime Impressions, and I help people with image. But I love teaching so much.
So you're not teaching now?
I teach part-time.
Okay.
So for the last 25 years, I've been teaching part-time at the college and running my business.
Okay.
And because I just love helping people be their best at all levels, and particularly students who want to make their way in the
world. I have got a lot of requests that my subscribers, how to make a part-time resume that accepted in Canada. It was challenging for me actually. I didn't know anything about how to make, even though you teach me the basics of how to make a resume, I'm not a good student to grasp all the things.
It's a learning process.
Yeah, so thank you so much for accepting my request. It's going to help a lot of people.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. So my first question is, how important is a resume in Canada? Like people are so when I came to Canada, my first priority was find a part-time job, like how to create a resume for a part-time job. So is it important that you need a resume to find a part-time job?
Unfortunately for everyone, we still are hooked to resumes. Unfortunately, because they're a lot of work. And there is some information on the internet saying the resume is dead, but employers still want to have a resume because it's a summary of the person that they're going to potentially hire. That's the whole purpose of it, to give them also a physical, a piece of paper usually, or something online, where they can go back and they can review all of the candidates based on what they had perhaps in an interview, but also their resume is extremely important, reminding them about the person's background and education.
Okay, the question that I asked is that some of the students, they said that, my friends said that, resume is not important. You can just go to all the restaurants, all the, the main important place that the international students working at retail or restaurant. So, they said that resume doesn't matter, but I argued with that resume is more important. So you say that resume is very important to get a part-time job, right?
I do.
Okay.
However, I'm going to go onto your friend's side just for a moment, because let's look at this too. I find in Kingston, a lot of places that people are looking for part-time work, they may have contacts. You know, they may have, sometimes it's a cultural contact. Sometimes it's a friend of a friend. And so in that kind of situation, often the person is going to believe the person recommending you. And sometimes, because if you just walk into a place, there's a lot of people working in gas stations, small retail like Max Milk and places like that, they really want to meet the person. And there's an immediate, from my work as an image consultant, I know there's an immediate reaction. People decide in 6 to 30 seconds not to hire you if it's a no. So in some situations, I will agree there's times when you don't. But as you move into positions where you want to look more professional, when you walk in with a resume, then you're also up one level from a person walking in, because it saves them time. To know a little bit.
So it's very important for our future to just learn from the beginning, how to make a resume.
I would, especially in Canada.
Yes. Okay. You teach me more about resumes, and there was academical surveys. They helped me to how to create a resume. For the thing they told about the
Chronological, that word?
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Chronological and functional resumes.
Yes.
So what is exactly, I didn't understand.
What is the difference?
Yeah, what is the difference?
And why are they important?
Yeah.
Okay. A functional resume, which is not the one most employers favor. Most employers favor the chronological.
Okay.
So the functional one is good when you don't have any experience at all, including volunteer experience, because volunteer experience can be just as important and laid out on a resume, just like work. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
But the functional resume will have 2 or 3 main categories, like communication skills, technical skills, maybe hands-on mechanical skills, depending on your area of study. And then under each of those headings would be some bullets, always in bullet form, and we can talk more about that as well, about how you show your communication skills, how you show your technical skills, how you show your mechanical skills. And what it is that doesn't have anybody can write. Why I think the employers are not so favorable towards it is anybody can write anything in those sections. But they think, well, what have they actually done? This person, he or she says, I have these. How do I know? So it's not that it will not work. It's just not as, for some reason, employers like to see a linear timeline. How long did the person spend at each job? Was there a big gap in their resume? There's something about the chronological is all about putting the most recent job first and then the second most recent and so on in chronological
order. Like they can understand very quickly that we was working here.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like that linear timeline that they're looking for in the resume. So if someone doesn't have any experience, and I have had people in my classes like that, they have been able to create really good functional resumes.
Okay.
However, I asked around, I asked people who are in the process every day of preparing people for work with their resumes at very high end levels, and they said, oh, employers really hate functional resumes. So I strive to stay away from that as much as possible because I like to give what the employers are looking for.
Like in order wise, like everything.
Yes. And in the chronological one, under each of those jobs, we'll talk a little bit about how to lay that out as well.
Okay. And will that make the resume more attractive? Like how to make the resume more attractive with that kind of details adding into it? I know it's a hard question, but how can a resume make it attractive to the employees that they are looking for?
Okay. First of all, as you know in my classes, I talk about get the job posting, and then the job posting is usually an online listing of a job that's available. And in that posting, they'll give you skills that they're looking for. So something to attract the employer would be to have that information. If you have it, you don't ever want to say you have that experience. They might want someone with good communication skills, good written and verbal communication skills. They might want someone with attention to detail. If you have that, then you create an area in your resume at the very top, which is like a summary of skills or qualifications, and you make about 4 to 6 bullets talking about the very things that are in their posting, so that when they start reading, sometimes they don't read past the first third of the resume, and right there, you're catching their attention with, these are some things I'm looking for.
Okay. My next question is, and this is my favorite question, what's a major mistake that an international students make in their resumes?
I'm going to talk about 2. The first one is I've noticed the education layout is quite different from Canadian resumes. And it's done in a chart, and it lists all kinds of things that I'm, as a reader, not aware of what they mean. And it doesn't emphasize the degree or diploma or certificate that you received through that education. And sometimes it goes way back in terms of the amount of years. So the education section needs to be cleaner and in bullet form, I would say, with a bold font, not for the college or university or school, but a bold font for the actual degree or diploma or certificate. So that when a resume is read, people spend so little time, 30 seconds or less. You need to jump down and see right away that you have an engineering degree already, things like that.
And the current section goes on top. Right?
Yes, same, just like the work in the chronological order.
And what if still I'm studying that course, like I'm studying as alone, so do I need to add that too?
You still put it in. You put mechanical technician.
Mm-hmm.
You would put the dates over to the right always, so that we're not looking at the dates. We look at the diploma that you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And then under the dates, you can put ongoing. So you can put, when did you start?
September 4th.
So 2019.
Yep.
It's a 2-year program.
Yep.
So you're going to graduate in
2021.
2021.
Mm-hmm.
So you could put 2019 to 2021, and then in brackets, put ongoing so that they know that you're not finished yet. Or you could put 2019 to present. In other words, present day.
Okay, so the mistake is that avoid the chart that used by
the chart.
I think I also used that chart, and you just blame me for that.
I asked if I could use it as an example for future years.
Yeah.
So that I can talk about it without embarrassing the student. You know, you're not in the class at that time. The other thing is there are a lot of paragraphs in resumes that I receive. Mm-hmm. And paragraphs, people are not going to read through all that information. Mm-hmm. They would be better to put it in bullet form.
Okay. I understand.
Point form.
I understand. Hope my subscribers also understand that. And this is the most important thing. What does we need to include in a part-time job resume?
I would approach a part-time resume if you haven't had tons of experience. You don't have like 4 pages of information, and it should be, you know, you're going to ask how long should it be? It should be a 2-page resume at the most. So you would include the same information if it's a part-time or full-time. What you would do is in the summary of skills, just make sure whatever that part-time position is, that those are the skills, the customer service, skills. Let's say, rather than the mechanical. If you're working in retail, the customer service, your ability to communicate would be higher than AutoCAD. You take AutoCAD out. So it would be reworked. Only really that top section.
And what's the perfect order for that? Skills on the top or the summary?
There's always going to be that summary of qualifications in the top third. You would put your name, address, your big name. You want to be proud of yourself, you know, make it look great. And then a summary of qualifications or summary of skills would go next. After that, education could go next, or your experience could go next. You can flip them around. It depends on the situation. If you had experience working in retail and you were going for a retail job, I would probably put the education further down and bring the experience up just after that summary of skills.
And what does the skills goes on the last section?
Which
skills?
No, they always are going to be right after your name and address and contact. It's that top heading, really. The content will change, as I mentioned, depending on the job, to match the job posting or what you think would be involved in the job. After that, you can change the order of work and education.
So how many points do I need to include in the skills? Like 5, 6?
At the most, 5, 6. 4 to 6 would be, you know, the guideline. And a combination, I usually say, try to have at least, about half and half soft skills, hard skills.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, of course, I talked about that a lot. Sometimes people just talk about their hard skills, like their technical skills, and we don't know anything about their ability to communicate, their, some of the other compassion, if it's necessary. That's not a common one, I would think, with a lot of jobs, but it just popped into my mind. Communication, teamwork. I worked in a team of 12 people. And if you can get numbers in your resume, that's another thing that's often missing in everyone's resume.
You mean like in between the sentence, right?
In the sentences. So instead of saying, I often get students to say, how many of you managed anyone or trained anyone? A lot of part-time jobs involve training other people that come in. Even though you haven't had a lot of experience in that job yet, you're asked to train someone else. So I ask, how many people have you trained? And they'll say, at least 10. over a period of 4 months.
Okay, if you're working in a restaurant or somewhere,
Yes.
I have trained a new employee, like
That's
that
right.
thing can include in the skill sections. Right?
Yes. If you're going for a job
Mm-hmm.
for a similar position.
Mm-hmm.
If not, that would go
right
down in the work experience with trained approximately 10 people over 4 months, so that ensuring that that impact, I'm strong about it. How did you do it? Why did you do it? But most importantly, what impact? You make a difference. Even though you don't feel you have tons of experience, you're making a difference. And so what difference did you make? If you did a good job, if you went to work and did nothing, you obviously wouldn't have a lot to report.
Yeah.
But that, I don't see that.
Yeah, most of the international students are coming after just the basic education from India. So they didn't get a chance to work. I'm 25 years old. I have time to work in India. So how did you manage them? Like, it's too hard for them to manage without experience, right?
Did you do any volunteer work? Because a lot of people that are coming from India will tell me about working for an orphanage or working in various not-for-profit environments.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about one that you might have had?
Yeah, I was part of a youth organization, and we was going to some like doing charity works, like that.
What did you do?
Going to an orphanage, like that you told me.
Yes.
And like I used to sing, so we go to orphanage and you just sing and make them happy.
Cool. Yeah. So if you haven't got work experience, you could put usually I like to call it community involvement. And then underneath that, you lay it out just like a work experience area. You put volunteer in bold, because your position that you, if you're working as a cashier, it would be cashier in bold. If you're working as a volunteer in bold. And then you lay out the organization. And then you put some bullets as to what you actually did. And you made a difference. You already told me you made them happy by singing.
Yeah.
So you're going to put that into a bullet form that's going to say how you did it, why you did it, and the impact. And it will give two things. In Canada, people are very interested in others, in the people that they hire, in that they have had experience volunteering.
With people, right?
Because they're not just thinking about themselves.
Okay, yeah.
And that's just as important to have some of that experience on your resume. And a lot of people say, oh, I just helped out at an orphanage, or I just, we have a thing in Canada, it's a 30-hour fast that World Vision does. Oh, I just hear that, just not a good word to use anywhere in a resume.
Okay, that's good.
Does that help?
Yeah, that's really
a little bit.
Yeah, that's really helped. I used to do that just somewhere in between the resumes, but no. I hope you guys don't do that. Okay, so this is more critical. Like when we are done with the part-time job and the studies, next step is like professional. Going to find a professional job, full-time job. So what are the basic things, or how to make a full-time resume for a professional job?
Well, it's really the same basic format and plan. What I would say is if you had any experience during school, some programs will have placement, where they go out and work 1 day a week, something connected, or it could be class, if you don't have that in your program, it could be classroom projects that you had worked on.
Yeah.
So you're going to include some of those underneath your education in bullet form. You don't want to have like 12 of them. It's a bit long, unless you have no experience at all.
Internship, like project internship, like that works.
Yes, internship. If you have an internship, it's really, really great. Now, if it's a proper internship where you're out once a week or a week during the semester, or what, some of them have a month, at the end, what you would do is create that unpaid work experience section and lay it out again with the title of what you would have been doing. Intern is fine, but if you can add some words that mechanical intern, in your case, and then the company. Don't ever put the company in bold, big letters. No, always the position.
Okay.
People really, you want to know what you did, what was your position, and then your bullet. So you can create an unpaid work section that is very powerful. because it shows I have some skills related to the job that I'm going to apply to.
After our studies, it's important to keep a mark on our resumes. So, is it important to get a high mark to find a very good job?
Marks are not everything. People are going to look at soft skills over marks.
Okay.
However, if you I think it's important if your marks are good that you include something about that on your resume, because not only do you have good soft skills, it shows you have good technical skills. So the technical skills can always be taught, but there is this thing in the back of our minds. Whoa, look at their GPA. Their GPA is, like 3.8.
The GPA is this thing that calculates some mark, right?
It's a calculation that it's called, it means grade point average.
Okay.
And they take the number of marks that you've received throughout the whole semester and divide it by the number of hours. And I went online and did some research myself.
I don't think they can understand this GPA thing.
No, there's different GPAs. Like we use 4. So if you get 4, it means you're probably very close to getting perfect.
Okay, so if we finish our course and we got like a 3.5 GPA, how are we going to include that in our resume?
Good. Under the education section, you're going to put as I mentioned already, the diploma, the school, the location, and then you can put bullets. So you can put a bullet and GPA 3.5 GPA. Okay. 2 things, it shows that you have good marks. Secondly, when there's a number in a resume, people race through their resumes and they stop and they look and they think, what's this all about?
So it's very important, if you don't have a good GPA, don't include it.
No.
Okay.
Sometimes I see education from the students that have come from India, and they've put down a mark of 65%. And that is considered a D in Canada, is low. So be careful about that, yes.
And one more thing is that our job experience. Do we need to keep a non-related job experience to if you are applying for a restaurant job, or you think about the professional after studies you're going for, and I'm a mechanic technician, so I'm applying for a mechanic technician job. So I have experience in retail and restaurant. So is it important to keep that resume, like this job?
It is.
Okay.
We had somebody coming in from one of the power generation companies, the biggest one, and he talked most of the time about soft skills, because in the restaurant job you had doesn't seem to be related, but there are things that we call transferable skills. So your patience with clients and your ability to communicate would be moved over to your work experience automatically. And it's very important to have these jobs, because it shows a wide variety of experience as well as that transferable skill. And on the job, the mechanical, that gentleman who came in, he says, you took this because you wanted hands-on work and you didn't want to talk to people, maybe. And a lot of hands went up. And he says, well, guess again. So that shows that you've had that time where you've been honing those skills.
Communication with the people is also very important.
Yes, it's extremely important because we have to work with others.
Yeah. In India, we used to put our pictures on our resumes. And the next thing, layout, headings, and the font between that. Can you just explain more about these things?
Okay. The picture I would never put on a resume.
In Canada?
In Canada. Some people will, but it's the worst thing you can do. It's not common.
The reason why I asked you that, I have a roommate with me, and I was helping my roommate to make a resume, and he actually putting his profile picture into the resume. So I think that's also important to know my audience. Yes. So yeah, carry on.
Because we are such a visual society, people will make a lot of judgments about you based on that picture, and sometimes we decide things that are not necessarily true because we have no further information. So that's one of the main reasons that I would say, please don't put your picture on it. That you want them to look at all of that wonderful material that you've created below.
Okay.
And who knows, they might have a friend that might have looked like you and they didn't get along with them. Who knows? It could be, our brother or sister. Well, that looks like my brother. I don't like him. The strangest reason.
They can just avoid from the profile picture.
Yes. Yeah. It makes an impression immediately, and you haven't had time to speak for yourself.
Yeah.
And then layout. Important to have really nice headings, like your name as large as you would like, as long as it's not half the page. And then each of the main headings, I find, make them fairly large and without an underline underneath it, an underscore, because it's cleaner. Lots of nice white space, but make sure it's consistent. I'm very big on turning the resume sideways and looking to make sure what you have between all the headings is identical, so that people aren't distracted by, oh, that's a larger space, instead of looking at the content.
In between the text.
Yes.
And the heading needs to be on the one size.
The headings, I would say, you'd want the same size headings throughout, yes. And then making sure the dates are always on the right, because you don't want them, as soon as you put the dates on the left side,
on the
work section.
Work section. Okay.
Yeah. So if you have your, I was a cashier or worked in a restaurant, I was a server, the company, and then if you put the dates right there, they're going to start to analyze the dates instead of looking at the wonderful bullets you've created to talk about the skills that you have that are transferable.
It's important. If I work 5 months in a restaurant, can I put 5 months? I just work 5 months in a restaurant, or from this to this?
No, they're looking for when.
When to
yes.
Okay.
The only exception sometimes is someone who's really mature, and they don't want them to know that they're in their 60s.
Okay.
I don't know if that applies right now.
And my last question is actually, a lot of students who like to come to Canada ask me, is reference important to find a part-time job? Even when I got a job, the company actually said, give me some reference like that. So is it important to keep the reference in your resumes, or
how to handle them?
Yeah.
Okay. First, they're important. Obviously, you've experienced that. And they're usually looking for people that could talk about your ability to work. Sometimes I suggest 3 professional references and 1 personal. The problem is, if you haven't had any experience yet, it becomes difficult. So sometimes it's good to ask your teachers if they wouldn't mind giving a reference, as long as you've been good, you've come, you've attended,
good student.
a good student. If you never show up, it's just not important, right? Never put them on the resume, and just like the picture speaks for you before you get a chance. This came from a woman who used to look at resumes, and she was helping out in the class one day with a student, and she said, may I add something? I said, sure. She said, if you put your references on your resume, people might call them up before you've had an interview. And so again, they're speaking for you before you've had a chance. And she said, it's not good to do that. But you do need to have them. And so looking at who knows you.
After the interview, if they want.
Yes. In fact, I suggest creating a separate sheet that has the same heading, beautiful, big name at the top and so on, and then list the references, their name, their contact information, and how they know you. So I worked with this person.
On the last of the receipt.
That's right. Some companies, some employers will not give references. All they'll give is, yes, this person worked here from this date to this date. And it's because sometimes they're afraid that if the person doesn't get the job and the person comes back and said, you've defamed my character, you didn't say something nice. So there are some companies that are not.
The full reference is very important to get a job.
So if you're working part-time somewhere, before you leave, if you know you've done a good job, they've been pleased with you, before you leave,
a former employee.
Say you had some work around Christmas time. Sometimes the retailers are holiday times, so at the end of the year, they will hire part-time people for that busy time. Before you leave, not the last day, ask whether or not it'd be possible to get a reference. And if they say, I can't, but you can ask one of the fellow employees, then you want to make sure you do that before you lose track of them.
Reference is actually what like to get more information about what we are, like,
yes,
from other persons.
They'll call up and they'll ask what is important to them. Sometimes it might go back to that job posting if they're asking for particular characteristics. You know, is the person reliable? Do they show up on time? Basic things like that.
Okay.
But also in the mechanical side of things, did they handle tools well? Are there AutoCAD designs, I'm going to say, whatever the term would be, AutoCAD designs, are they accurate? Did you have to correct a lot? That kind of thing could come up in a reference.
Okay, and one more question. Like, resume is not just a guarantee for a job, right? Resume is just one step for the job. Like,
the whole point of the resume is to get an interview, to get a call for an interview. So yes, and keep your resume updated. You know, and sometimes on the computer you might have, as you get more experience, you might have all your jobs there. You might have to pick and choose a few, but the point is, if you have 2 or 3 jobs that are very similar, there's also ways of grouping them together under, you know, mechanical technician put down with 3 companies and 1 set of bullets. If you've had a lot of short contract work, let's say, if you had a lot of short contract work at the beginning of your career, you've gone for 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, because that's all you could get at that time. Hopefully not in your field, but in some other fields it's quite common.
Yeah.
So if it starts to become a huge, more than 2-page resume, you can group those. And I've often talked about the part-time work. You know, if you worked at 3 different
positions, right?
Positions or 3 different
like we start as
restaurants, you know, 3 different. Well, even that's another one we haven't talked about. Good point. So if you started as a dishwasher, moved up to server, and then managing cook something, you can put those things in the resume as well. In order.
That highlights, right?
Yes. But if you've also worked at 3 different McDonald's, Wendy's, and Subway, these are Canadian franchises that are now probably in many places in the world. If you've done more or less the same thing, you just create a heading with the 3 companies and the dates and then 1 set of bullets. It saves a lot of time. You don't want to repeat the same bullets during, throughout that chronological resume.
And the last question is that how we can get help to build a resumes in Canada, in college.
There's a career center within the college. Some of the programs will have courses like the one we had. There is a tendency in Ontario, where you are, the funding for colleges is going to be dependent on whether you get a job. So I would hope that this is new. Our new Ontario government says we're going to give you certain funding based on whether the student gets jobs in the end. So there's huge pressure on colleges to be able to provide what's necessary.
Okay.
And the other is to, if someone in the class has done a really good job of their resume, you might see if you can have some tutoring with them as well.
Yeah, asking others help, right?
Definitely.
Okay. So that's it. I hope you guys all understand how to make a good resume. And thank you so much for accepting my request and helping my subscribers. Thank you so much. You want to say something?
You're very welcome, Joman. I really love helping people get ahead. So I just wish you all the best. You can also go online and look at different examples of resumes, and I know they're all over the place. And I don't even use a textbook because I can't find one that has a really good format. So the biggest thing is to make sure that you put in how you did a job, why you did it, carefully handled cash in order to balance by the end of the day, so that the impact staff could leave on time. That's a very small example. And obviously each one of you will have incredible skills. And if you don't put them into the resume some way, then they're not going to know that you have those skills. So all the best, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I love you guys. Bye-bye. Take care. See you with another video. Bye-bye. Tata. Take care. Bye. guys, please check this website. This is actually Catherine Bell's website. She is actually running this business. The link will be in the description. Make sure you just check this website and understand everything. Thank you so much. Bye bye.